Well, that was brutal. The San Francisco Giants took a 4-run lead into the ninth inning, and they lose against the Pittsburgh Pirates, starting off a road trip, coming off a nice homestand and 4 wins in a row. Just not what you want to see, and the worst loss of 2024 for sure.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015. Been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. And I see that word guaranteed, and I think that's how I felt about this win. This game. I call it a win. It wasn't a win. It was not a win. It was the Giants took a 6-2 lead into the bottom of the ninth inning against the Pirates. It's not like they're playing here the Dodgers or whoever else you want to throw out there. The Yankees right now playing great, but it's the Pirates, and they blow a 4-run ninth inning lead. And so the thing is, like, the main takeaway for me is that this just happens, over the course of a 162 game season. You do see low probability events happen, and that's exactly what this was. As I go on Baseball Savant, and O'Neal Cruz hit 2 balls over 100. He had the 2 hardest hit balls of the season by any player in this game. And I wanted to look at the win probability chart for this game and kind of put it in those terms. So yeah, 99%. When Luke Jackson got the first out of that inning, I think on 1 pitch, right? And so 99%. So that's 1 out of 100 times a team in that position is going to lose. And so Giants have played 49 games. And so, you don't expect this to happen basically any more times. It's not really how it works, but like once we've played 100 games, you don't expect to have another game like this, but you do kind of statistically say this probably will happen like about 1 time on average. And so that's what it was. And it was a rough time for it, considering the Giants were finally playing better and they were on their way to 5 wins in a row, and starting out the road trip on a good note, and starting out this series on a good note, and being able to potentially win another series. But it wasn't to be. A 6-2 lead in the ninth inning gets blown by Luke Jackson and Camilo Doval. So we're kind of going to break down what went wrong there. I mean, one of the things is that I wasn't like, when I saw Luke Jackson in the game, I was like, ugh. I would just kind of go to Camilo Doval to start the inning personally. And that's the thing. Like, people sometimes, like, if Doval had come in and blown the game, they'd say it's because it wasn't a save situation. I don't care at all. Like, these players need to not care, because 3 runs versus 4 runs, it's like there's not some magic number that just because a save is 3 runs or less to start a clean ninth inning doesn't mean much to me. And however, so anyway, Luke Jackson started out the inning. He got an out on the first pitch. I'm almost certain. I was like somewhat multitasking at that moment, paying attention, but still, yeah. So he got an out on 1 pitch, yeah, and then the next batter walked. And that's the thing, is you're up 6-2. he threw a first pitch strike and then ball, 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 none of them close. And so that's, you say leadoff walks come back to haunt you. Well, apparently 1-out walks with a 4-run lead can come back to haunt you as well. So Sawinski walked, Grandal doubled after Jackson got ahead of him 1-2, and then it was 2-2, and then Grandal doubled, and then they go to Camilo Doval. So I like the kind of quick hook for Jackson there to get him out, but then Doval walks a batter as well. And it looks like, one of the pitches he threw could have been called a strike. It would have been strike 3, actually. It did clip the very inside edge of the zone, and so that's worth pointing out. And then so that was, big because it loaded the bases, and with the Giants up 6-2. So suddenly the tying run comes to the plate with 1 out, and then a first pitch single, and all of a sudden, you've got another run. So now the winning run is coming to the plate. And then here's the big play of the inning. I mean, there's a lot of big plays, but Marco Luciano makes an error. So it should have been the second out of the inning. But Marco Luciano doesn't get anybody out, and that's just critical. It was Andrew McCutchen hits a ground ball to short, and it kind of just ate up Luciano. He just kind of, I think, got caught in between, like overhand, underhand, and the ball just kind of like took a hop that was a little bit tough. It was hit hard, but that's a play you just absolutely have to make. And we mentioned yesterday going into the game that this is evaluation time for guys like Luciano and Elliot Ramos as Nick Ahmed and Michael Conforto and Austin Slater get closer to returning. And one of the knocks on Luciano is potentially shortstop defense. And we saw it there at a very critical time. Like, wish he could have saved that for a time that wasn't as critical, but like that would have been the second out of the inning. A run would have still scored, but it would have been 6-4 with 2 outs and runners on first and third. So a little bit less dicey because all of a sudden it's still bases loaded. Bases loaded and 1 out and 6-4. And so that's a very different situation. And then Brian Reynolds grounds out to Luciano, basically similar play, similar kind of like the outcome that they wanted on the previous play, where he fields the ground ball and gets 1 out, but they're not able to turn a double play. There was just no way. It wasn't hit hard enough, and it kind of forced Luciano to back up. And so it was just not going to be a double play, but they got an out. So they were 1 out away from winning. It's 6-5 with 2 outs and runners on first and third. And then O'Neal Cruz comes up and hits another ball. He hit it 121.5 miles an hour, which is, he broke his own record that he set earlier in the game of 120 point something. So, like they were saying on the broadcast, they were surprised they didn't pitch around O'Neal Cruz. And I kind of agree with that, except you would if you kind of walk him, for example. First of all, Doval has had problems walking guys all season, and then you're in a position where a walk means a tie if you load the bases there, like on purpose. And you're also in a position, I guess that's all I was going to say, is like, oh no, also the winning run goes to second base. So then a single wins the game and a walk ties it, so I understand like not pitching around him, but he did strike out the next batter, Connor Joe, a righty. Connor Joe historically better against left-handed pitching. So anyway, just brutal. And then they go to the 10th, and the Giants are still alive there. They survived that inning without losing, and they go to the top of the 10th, and you're up against David Bednar, who's really good as a reliever. And so Lamont, they get the runner to third with 1 out, the Manfred runner, and they can't get him in. Wade Jr., who's been great all season, strikes out. Tip my hat to David Bednar. He's a good closer. And then they get out of the inning, the Pirates. And then the first pitch, bang, in the bottom of the 10th, single up the middle, game over, Pirates win. So just definitely, to me, the worst loss of 2024. But 1 out of 100 times, you do expect to see that. And so that was the time. Like, They may not lose another game like that all season, hopefully, but ooh, that hurt. That hurt bad. So coming up in just a minute, we'll kind of turn our attention to some better news, which is that Blake Snell is going to pitch. This game has already started. We'll get into Blake Snell and Patrick Bailey coming off the injured list momentarily, and before we do, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Yesterday, I don't want to say advice, but the what I was mentioning was the over on hits for Luis Matos, which was set at 0.5, and the over on strikeouts for Logan Webb, which I think it was either 2.5 or 3.5, and that was kind of an easy call for me. And sure enough, Logan Webb struck out 6, and so that won, that hit. And then today, it's gone away. I was looking at over on Marco Luciano with like hits plus runs plus RBI. You can see the app here if you're on YouTube, and you just pick more or less on, and hit MLB, search Giants, and every day you can just pick more or less on player stats, and I'm always going to have recommendations for what I'm doing because I love to play. And one of the best things is that PrizePicks is available to play in the great state of California. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today, use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less, it's that easy. All right, as promised, we're going to get into like some better news, which is that the fact that Blake Snell, he's pitching right now. I mean, I'm going to be watching this game delayed. I apologize for the delay on this show. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I am bouncing around from location to location. It's just been a wild 5 weeks for me, but things should be getting back to normal soon. So yeah, but Blake Snell, like I want to say he's gonna pitch today, but he's pitching right now. Actually, the Giants are hitting first. What am I talking about? So he's not pitching yet, I would presume, unless the Giants had a very quick top of the first. Don't tell me in the comments. I don't actually see the comments. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at them presently. But yeah, Blake Snell coming off the IL after the unbelievable rehab kind of 2 outings that he had is exciting, and maybe like this is one of those games where you've just got to I hope that they can just not spiral, right? Like if you can just go out there and if Blake Snell can come in and just like overpower the Pirates and you can keep your offense going. The Giants did at the end of the day put up 6 runs yesterday, and they hadn't lost a game all year when they had scored 5 runs or more. It was just a freak 9th inning thing. Like otherwise it was a good game by the Giants. And so it's hard to, you can't dwell on it too much, but Blake Snell gets activated. Nick Avila, who we suspected would be the corresponding move, he gets optioned. Patrick Bailey was activated from the 7-day IL prior to yesterday's game, and Blake Sabol was optioned, which we also figured would happen. And so having Bailey back, and the lineup today features Matos at the very top. Wade Jr., Estrada, Chapman, Bailey, Soler kind of moves down. It's been a rough season so far for Jorge Soler. Elliot Ramos, Yastrzemski, and Luciano, and Snell. And so to have Bailey back, I mean, that's huge. And to have Snell back is also huge. By the way, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow we're going to be breaking down, let's see, what time? This game is at 3:40. And then tomorrow's game is at 9:35. And so we're going to wait until after the morning game tomorrow. Paul Skeens on the mound for the Pirates. So this is a big game tonight to win, because otherwise you're looking at a possible sweep, because Skeens has been really good and #1 overall pick in last year's draft. He's already in the major leagues, just really potentially overpowering pitcher. And so big game to try to win tonight. you had Webb, you had the advantage, you had the lead. Like, it's tough. But a reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. So, yeah, Patrick Bailey and Blake Snell both mean so much to this team. Bailey, he saw, we mentioned this yesterday, but he saw one of the top concussion specialists in the country. And yeah, Dr. Mickey Collins, per Susan Slusser. And he saw Patrick Bailey yesterday morning, and the doctor cleared him to play. So there you go. Like, that is great news because concussions are scary. We saw it with Mike Matheny back in the day, and you got to be careful. And so I'm glad that they're being cautious and having him see a top concussion specialist, and that he's cleared. And yeah, so the projections for Bailey, I mean, have him at close to league average offensively. He's been more than that this season. He's missed a lot of time, but hitting 277, 337 on base, 446 slugging with the elite defense, it's just game changing. And so hopefully he can keep it going. Hopefully this time on the IL doesn't like slow him down. And same thing for Blake Snell, who comes into this game with an ERA of 11.57, but peripheral numbers that are obviously better than that. 4.12 expected ERA, fielding independent pitching of 4.60. So none of it's great. I mean, the ERA is horrible, but the other numbers aren't even good. But it is 3 games and only 11 and 2/3 innings. And last year, I've made this point a bunch, like back when Snell, it's been over a month since Snell has pitched. Last year, he had like an ERA in the mid fives through like 11 starts. And he ended up winning the Cy Young Award in a landslide because 11 starts even is a small sample and not enough to make, and it doesn't define a season, is basically what I'm trying to say. And so, Snell has the opportunity to go out there tonight and be Blake Snell. And this is a big game for the Giants. Like, if you lose this game, you're up against Paul Skeens tomorrow, and that's tough, and you're potentially getting swept by the Pirates. And after sweeping the Rockies, it kind of would wash away all of that. But if they win, then they've still got a chance to win the series. And just kind of winning a game after a loss like last night, to me, is like, I don't want to say like critical, but what it is, they're only one game out of a wild card spot. That means if they had won that game, they would be tied for a playoff spot. So they're tied with 1, 2, 3, 4 other teams. There are 4 teams that are 23 and 26, including the Pirates. The Diamondbacks, the Pirates, the Giants, and the Cardinals are 23 and 26. And the Padres have lost 2 straight and are 1 game under 500. Giants, their road record falls to 8 and 16. But again, a game they really, really had in the bag, and their record against teams over 500, it's at or over. They have a like typo on MLB.com. It should be greater than or equal to 500 because that's how they actually calculate it. It's just 3 and 13. So far, that's kind of defining this season is their road record and their record against good teams. But like when they've done well against the Padres, so if the Padres win their next game, suddenly that road record looks a lot better. Or excuse me, that record against teams over 500 looks a lot better. So I wouldn't read too much into that one. But 8 and 16 on the road, you can't be just losing twice as many games as you win on the road, or otherwise you're gonna have a hard time because you'd have to match that at home just to be 500. So you got to play. You want to like play 500-ish on the road. And so far, they should have been 9 and 15. My old friend Adam Petke, who I started podcasting with way back in 2015, he always hated when I said the word should. Like they should have won. He didn't like that. And so I hear his voice in my head. They lost. They went out there and earned that loss by, with Luke Jackson, Camilo Doval, Marco Luciano. They went out there and earned a loss there. And it stung like no other loss has stung in 2024. But again, like if you watch baseball, this happens throughout the course of a season 1 or 2 times usually. Where a game that's just like you have it in the bag and you just completely blow it and it stinks. And there's nothing you can do about it. And this hopefully was the like one time that this happens to them. And to me, it just came at a really bad time. But to have Bailey back, to have Snell back is a good thing. And this is a big game. And again, we'll have a podcast for you tomorrow after the morning game, hopefully talking about a Giants series win. This could go one of three ways. You could be looking at 2-1, winning 2 out of 3 against the Pirates. You could be looking at a sweep by the Pirates, or you could be looking at losing 2 out of 3. So obviously the ideal is you win the next 2. Obviously the fear is you lose the next 2, and in between is you split the next 2. But tough loss, and I'm having a hard time accepting it, and I can't wait to watch this next game and hopefully a win. I feel like it would just like get everybody's mind, including the players and the staff and all that, off of the loss last night. So coming up in just a minute, we're going to take a step back, look at some statistics for the team as they had another good game offensively. They put up 6 runs. I know they had some situational at-bats that didn't go their way. Mike Yastrzemski, bases loaded, 1 out, couldn't get the guy in. Extra innings, runner on third, 1 out, couldn't get the guy in. So that definitely happened. But at the end of the day, I'm going to just look. And again, it comes down to run prevention. I feel like people are focused on the offense, but the run prevention, once again, bites them and burns them. And so we'll get into that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive like I did at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, as promised, we are going to take a step back, look at some of the big picture statistics for the Giants on the season as they had another good offensive game. It's like, I get it. They left some ducks on the pond there, but at the same time, 6 runs is 6 runs. And usually, they had been undefeated when they scored 5. And they had 6. They had a 4-run 9th-inning lead. You're going to win that game 99 out of 100 times. And this was that 1 in 100. So that stinks, but it happened. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where, as you know, it is your team every day. So, just wanted to take a look at, Luis Matos had another good game. He went, I thought I had the box score. Oh, there it is. Yeah, he went 1 for 4 with a walk and a single. Tyro Estrada hit a home run. Matt Chapman, 2 for 5 with a home run. Wilmer Flores, 2 for 5. Elliot Ramos had a hit and a walk. Marco Luciano had 2 hits. The Giants, they walked 5 times, struck out only 7 times, put up 9 hits. The Pirates ended up with 11 hits. And I don't know how many of those came in the 9th inning or later, but too many of them, obviously. But on the season, when we look at, okay, well, how's the Giants offense or like position player group looking overall, they rank 12th in Fangraph's wins above replacement, which is, it's not great, but it's not terrible at all. 12th in the major leagues. And in the National League, the Dodgers, Brewers, Phillies, Padres, Braves, and Diamondbacks are ahead of them. So 7th in the National League. It's kind of middle of the pack in the National League. But that's factoring in defense. You look at, plays like what we saw from Luciano, and that hurts. But, and if you talk about just offense, though, they have a 103 weighted runs created plus. 100 is league average. And the Giants at 103. That is 10th in all of baseball. So they're top third in offense, hitting 247 as a team, 315 on base, 381 slugging. You might think, oh, that sounds horrible. But let me tell you the league stats. 240 batting average is the league average right now, 240. And the Giants are at 247. So you might think 247 sounds horrible. Well, it's 7 points above Major League average. 312 on base is Major League average right now, and the Giants are at 315, so 3 points ahead of Major League average there in that department. And 388 slugging is Major League average, and the Giants are at 381. Isolated power for the Giants is 134, which is slugging minus batting average, and league average is 147. So they've been below average with power, but actually above average with batting average and on base percentage. League average batting average on balls in play is 288, and the Giants are at 295. So, the offense has been okay overall. If you factor in, okay, yeah, they kind of had a hot streak that helped them get there. Their strikeout rate is bottom third. They're 20th lowest. So like 10th or actually 11th best. 11th lowest. Does that make sense? The lowest is the Astros, and the Giants are 11th, the lowest, and the highest is the Mariners at 27.9%. And so overall, like, the position player group has been fine. The defense starts to kind of get worse here as they lose players like Jung-Hoo Lee and Nick Ahmed, but the offense has picked up in that, like, Luciano and Matos have done well filling in offensively, and so that's worth pointing out. And then you look at the pitching, and I'm sure we're going to find that the Giants once again find themselves with an ERA that is towards the bottom of the league. They're 23rd with a 4.47 ERA, 23rd in Major League Baseball. So that's kind of why their record is what it is run prevention, not so much run scoring. And you look at the peripherals, it's amazing, actually. Their fielding independent pitching is 3.83. Their expected fielding independent pitching, 3.83. And so they're about, what is that, like 70 points higher in their actual ERA than these kind of peripheral numbers suggest. They've allowed a batting average on balls in play that is 29th. In other words, it's actually tied with the Rockies for the highest in the sport, which is a luck indicator. And if you have bad infield defense, maybe, but they don't, except possibly with Marco Luciano now. But overall, Chapman, Estrada, Wade, this is not a reason that you should be, I mean, not just infield defense, it could be outfield defense too, but I don't think that's really the issue. And then their left on base percentage, when they allow base runners, they're bottom six at 68.7% of the time only do they strand those runners. And we should expect that number to be more like 72%, and it does add up over the course of time. And that's another luck indicator. And their ERA is much higher than the kind of peripheral numbers suggest, meaning I would expect there's this number called Sierra, and the Giants are 13th in it, and that number is an ERA predictor, and it's at 3.79. So all of these other kind of indicators are suggesting their earned run average should be around 3.8, but it's actually at 4.47. And so about 70 points higher, or 0.7 runs higher per 9 innings than kind of we should expect, basically. And so hopefully that normalizes. Hopefully more balls in play find gloves. We're seeing this team essentially more, as much as or more than any other team, when the ball is put in play against them, these balls are falling in for hits. And so hopefully that calms down, because there's no reason it should stay that way. It's just kind of a luck thing, unless you have a really bad defense, which they don't. So I don't really have much to say about that, except that it's just kind of random, I would say, and hopefully it corrects in a hurry, because this is They're one game back when all is said and done out of a playoff spot. They could have been tied with a win, but when all is said and done, they're one game back. Just you got to turn the page from that loss. It's going to happen. Most teams go through a loss like that at some point during the season. That's why, 99% equals 99%, meaning 1 out of 100 times you're going to lose a game like that on average. So, anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow. We'll be talking about tonight's game and then tomorrow morning's game, both. And again, there's 3 possible outcomes: a sweep by the Pirates, 2 out of 3 win for the Giants, 2 out of 3 series win for the Pirates. So what will it be? We'll talk about it tomorrow. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow, hopefully talking about 2 out of 3, at least 2 out of 3 one way or the other, not a Pirates sweep, but hopefully 2 out of 3 for the Giants. But we'll be breaking it down no matter what tomorrow. So thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.